Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our very first Boom Symposium. In this two-day event, you'll be able to attend presentations from our co-founders, Mary and Eric Omeg, creating Boom Cards masterclass with some of your favorite publishers, and a bunch of panels featuring educators like you who will be discussing how they use Boom Cards for differentiation, special education, speech therapy, and so much more. My name is Tu Duong. I'm the general manager here at Boom Learning, and we are very excited to be partnering with Della Larsen, who's here today for our keynote speech. Thank you, Della.
I'm so excited to be here.
Before we get to Della, I just wanted to welcome you and give you a couple of housekeeping rules here. If you see the chat box below in your Zoom platform, you're going to find some links in there that include links to our Facebook page, our YouTube video, and links to the very next event, which is a developer showcase with our very own CTO and co-founder, Eric Oman. He's going to show you so many cool features that we've got planned for you this year. Another thing is that we're recording this webinar, and you're going to get a link to the recording. We're also live streaming it on Facebook. So rest assured, if you miss anything, you'll be able to get a recording of it. And if you see the Q&A box below, if you've got any questions, please feel free to post that in the Q&A box. Everybody's going to get to see the questions, and everybody will be able to see the answers. We're going to answer some questions as we go. We've got some amazing Boom agents working in the background to help you. But I'm going to save some of the best questions to be answered by Della in the live Q&A at the end of her presentation. So also to note, we are offering certificates of attendance. You'll be getting more details about how to get those in the follow-up email tomorrow. There will be some questions that you need to answer in order to prove that you actually watched the webinar, and also some information about yourself. So we're happy to offer that for you, and we hope you take advantage of it. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Della to kick off our very first Boom Symposium.
Well, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here, and welcome to the first ever Boom Learning Back to School Symposium. I am thrilled to be part of this exciting opportunity where we can come together and learn about Boom and hear from expert teacher authors on how to make the most of this amazing platform. I look forward to walking away inspired and excited about a brand new year. My name is, My name is Della Larsen, and I retired 2 years ago after teaching for 34 years. I spent my entire career working with young children in a large urban district. I'm told I have an accent, so you might be able to guess which large urban district I worked in. Here's a picture of it. I started out teaching children with autism, and then I spent 25 years of the rest of my career in a traditional kindergarten. I now spend my days creating Boom Cards for young children and helping teachers navigate the process of creating a joyful classroom in a digital world. I started creating and using Boom Cards about 5 years ago, long before COVID turned teaching upside down, and I know firsthand how digital resources can transform not only how we teach, but how our students learn. I started using Boom because I needed Boom. I was alone in a class with 22 5-year-olds. and I needed an engaging activity so that I could have reading groups. I continued because my kids loved Boom. They begged me to make more. Every morning I would walk in and they would ask, did you make us something new? Do you have something new? They were relentless in a good way. And I knew Boom was special because they would ask for my phone while we were waiting for the bus, just so that they could keep on playing. One of the benefits of being part of Boom from the very beginning is that for those of us who started way back then, we were able to request features. And I'm pretty sure you can still request features. We were able to see what our kids needed, and we asked Eric to create it. We wanted movable pieces, done. We wanted sound, done. We wanted video, done. Boom always delivered. And I can't help but wonder what is coming next. I am sure that Eric is working on a new feature that will blow us all away. From the very beginning, Boom was willing to adapt and change and create a platform that worked for students. Like any good teacher, the needs of the students have always been front and center. Eric always wanted to know what the kids liked and what the kids wanted and what we as teachers needed. I think in a previous life, Eric must have been a teacher because his focus was squarely on the kids. Teaching isn't easy, and it's not for everyone. If we have learned anything from the last 2 years, it's that we must adapt. We must constantly change to address the needs of the kids in front of us. And it's not always easy. Teachers everywhere should feel proud that they have done just that. You created success in this new crazy world. And yes, at times it has been messy. And yes, you may have wanted to give up. I like to think about how many teachers check their retirement accounts over the last few years. I'm sure the answer is a lot. Education may look different and feel different now, but teaching actually hasn't changed. It's still what you have been doing all along, building relationships, determining what your students need, and then providing that in whatever way works. The tools have changed and our students' needs have changed, but teaching is still based on those relationships between teacher and learner. If the tools we use to teach never changed, you would be using this very advanced technology that I used in my first few years. For those of you who were not teaching in the 80s, this is a mimeograph machine. You use carbon paper and it had blue ink on it, and you had to put it on the machine backwards, and then you cranked it with your hand. The paper came out damp and it turned your fingers blue. And if you didn't get the paper on really straight, it all came out crooked. And there was a very strong smell that you knew that someone had just used the mimeograph machine. And I swear I can conjure that smell up today. And just like the copy machine, there was always a line to use it. And over the years, I have seen multiple strategies and techniques come and go. And my best advice is hold on to what works and get rid of what doesn't. As you head into a new year and you think about that clean slate, I think we need to reflect on how far you have come. The last few years have been exceptionally hard on both students and teachers. It literally turned education upside down, and teachers were asked to turn and pivot on a dime. I think back to that week in March 2020. Can you remember that? When we were told in my school that we would be out for 4 weeks, it just was mind-boggling. It was incomprehensible. How could that possibly happen? What was going to happen to our kids? How were we going to get through this? I had teachers, friends who were fantastic teachers, but they had never used technology in their classrooms. Some of them, honestly, could barely put an attachment into an email. And my school was so underfunded that each kindergarten class only had 4 Chromebooks that we had to share within 22 kids. So many of my kids had never had the chance to just even log on independently. How were we ever going to get everyone up to speed on Zoom and navigate moving through breakout rooms? How were the parents going to be able to get them on? The kids didn't even have Chromebooks or the internet. But somehow we did it. Teachers all around the world, they did it. We hand-delivered Chromebooks and we brought hotspots to shelters and projects throughout our city. We helped each other figure out how to use new platforms, and then we turned and helped the kids, and then turned again to help the parents. Teachers had to learn quickly and learn again and again. Districts seemed to change their expectations daily, and teachers were the ones who had to keep up. It's crazy thinking back on all of that. Sorry. It's crazy thinking back on that. But what went well, and the fact that it went well is truly mind-boggling. We got through it. It wasn't perfect, far from it in my district, but somehow we did it. It was hard. It was messy, but most of my kids actually got to their Zoom class. They were in their pajamas. A lot of them had the TV on playing while they were in class. And to be honest with you, they were paying more attention to my kitchen and my living room and my dog than the actual lesson. And to be honest, didn't you check out everybody's living room while you were on Zoom staff meetings? I know I did. But we survived. You survived. And I think it's time to just take a second and say thank you to all that you have done, because I'm not sure if anyone has been saying thank you to you lately. And as it wasn't enough, as the dust finally started to clear, we saw firsthand the effects of that lost year. Kids had not only lost academic skills, but I think what we were most unprepared for was their mental health was so compromised. They were lacking social skills. For so many kids, they spent way too much time on platforms like TikTok and YouTube, watching completely inappropriate videos. And they spent way too much time alone without being with their friends and with their peers. And all of that really affected how they interacted with each other and in the classroom once they came back. So now it's time to embrace a new normal. Every year presents different challenges, and no doubt this year will too. You're going to have to do what teachers have always done: meet the needs of every child every day. There's bound to be a large range of skills in front of you. But just like always, we can take what worked and leave behind what didn't. And it's okay to ask for help. This is hard. One of the things that works is Boom. Teachers everywhere have embraced the platform. So many teachers reached out to me and told me it not only saved their lessons, but saved their sanity. Boom helped give teachers the tools they need to meet the never-ending demands. So it's time to start again. It's going to be challenging. Our kids have all those social emotional problems, and their parents do as well. And to be honest, some of us are struggling. I know I still am. But here's the thing. We don't need to have all the answers. The best teachers don't know everything, but they know one thing for sure. The most important thing you can do for your students is build relationships between the student and the teacher, and between the students and the students, to bring joy back to your classroom, just like you always have done. As you prepare for a new year, it can be hard to resist seeing those Pinterest perfect classrooms and not feel bad. If you're in any Facebook groups, you know they're being flooded with beautiful door decorations and unbelievably gorgeous classrooms. Just remember that great quote by Theodore Roosevelt: "Comparison is the thief of joy." I swear that it resonates when it comes to looking at each other's classroom. I can tell you my classroom was never Pinterest worthy. I am so grateful there was no social media when I was starting out. I never would have posted any pictures of my hot mess classroom into a Facebook group or an Instagram. My desk was always a mess. The letters on the wall were never straight. And even after 35 years, I still struggled to keep the paper up on those concrete blocks. I was the one sitting in that beginning of the year PD, wishing we could just go to our room because I had so much to do. I sat there tapping my foot, glaring at anyone who would dare ask any questions and extend our PD. I wish I had learned earlier in my career that a perfect room wasn't a reflection on your skill as a teacher. So, what does make a great teacher? Take a minute and reflect on your favorite. Who made the biggest impact on you? Why? Chances are it isn't because their posters were all straight or their door was beautiful. Describing what makes an amazing teacher is a lot like describing beautiful art. It's really hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. My favorite teacher was Miss Ambrosia. She was my second grade teacher, and she was the best. I can't tell you anything I actually learned in the second grade. I have no idea if she had a theme or if she had a beautiful sign on her door, but I can tell you how she made me feel. Don't you love this quote by Maya Angelou? I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That is so true for teachers, don't you think? In 1972, I was a little redheaded girl in a class full of brunettes and blondes. There wasn't a redhead to be found. I was constantly teased for having red hair. Some of you may not be old enough to remember, but there was a show in the 70s called Pippi Longstocking, and I was constantly called Pippi. It was not a compliment, and I can tell you I probably cried once or twice in my mother's arms when I got home. This was the 70s, so being exactly like everyone else was what was important. And I was not like anybody else. My family immigrated from Ireland when I was young, and my parents spoke with an Irish accent. Red hair and an Irish brogue may not sound all that bit of a big deal right now, but I can assure you I was an anomaly. My son has red hair, and I'm constantly amazed at how the world has changed. In his entire school career, he has never been the only redhead in the class, or on the sports team, or in any group he's ever been in. But back in 1972, I was the only redhead in the entire school, and I was teased nonstop. My son has never been teased. Of course, he's 6'5", so that could have something to do with it. In second grade, my family was going to Ireland for Christmas. And because it was such an expensive trip, we were going to go for 4 weeks. No one in my class had gone out of Massachusetts, much less out of the country. And I felt so uneasy. I was afraid about missing school, about missing my friends. And as a second grader, I was also very worried that Santa did not have my grandmother's address and that I would not receive my Chrissy doll like I wanted. Let's just say I had a lot on my mind. The week before I left, Miss Ambrosia made me the class messenger. That was my job that week. And on the last day before my trip, I came back from the office after delivering the lunch count. And I walked into my class and everyone screamed, "Surprise!" My teacher threw me a bon voyage party. Whoops. I had no idea what bon voyage was, but it seemed really special and the kids were all really excited. I was excited because we were supposed to be having spelling, And I hated spelling. I'm a terrible speller, still am. But what I didn't know was that every day when I went to the office to deliver the lunch count, Miss Ambrosia secretly had a certain amount of kids sign a card for me, wishing me a wonderful trip. And then on the last day at the party, she gave me the card, and all my classmates had written to me saying how happy they were that I was going to get to have this wonderful trip. And then Miss Ambrosia did something unbelievable. She gave me her camera. It was her own personal camera. And she asked if I would take pictures in Ireland so that we could show the class. This is the type of camera it was, and it had those flashes on the top. Again, those of you who are a little younger don't remember. And when you took the picture, the flash exploded and you had to keep replacing the flash on the top. But this was her camera. She was giving it to me to take to Ireland. And when I tell you, no one has ever taken better care of a camera in the entire world. My mother would tell people for years how I wrapped it all up and wouldn't let anyone touch it, only me or my dad. No one else was allowed to even look at it. And in one simple act of extreme kindness, Miss Ambrosia switched that script. She made being different awesome. She made me feel 10 feet tall. Suddenly, going to Ireland wasn't weird, it was special. And I'd like to say that I was never teased for having red hair again. Not true. In all honesty, I do kind of look like Pippi Longstocking. But in that moment, she used her power to make a shy girl feel really special. These are the photos that I took with her camera. I wasn't a great photographer then, and I'm not a great photographer now. The dark photos are the ones I took. The ones that are a little brighter, my dad took because he knew how to use that flash. My brother told me to take the one on the Canon so that the boys would be impressed. And they were, he knew. I thought the girls would like the pictures of the castles, and they did. And for the rest of the year, they all thought that my grandmother lived in a castle and that I was an Irish princess. And I may or may not have encouraged that idea. I want you to make sure you notice my very fancy blue mink coat that I got special for the trip, and those white tie-up go-go boots. Oh, I love those go-go boots. Miss Ambrosia knew how to build a community within a class. She took something weird and she made it special. And here I am 50 years later telling you about how important she was to me. Who will still be talking about you in 50 years? As you start this new year, you have a chance to make an impact on a child, an impact so deep and so profound that 50 years from now, they will be telling a group of people how you filled their heart with joy. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it can be a hot mess. And most likely, no one is going to thank you. But the important part of teaching is still the same now as it was back in the 1970s. Even with all the changes, relationships are the single most important part of teaching. I hope you feel empowered. You are walking into a fresh start. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about teaching. Every year you start fresh. We all get a clean slate, both the kids and the teachers, and anything is possible. We all start fresh with all the caps, all the glue sticks have caps, and the crayons haven't broken, and no one has bit a pencil yet. Even at 35 years of teaching, I still got butterflies as we got up to Labor Day. The sense of possibility and excitement just fill your spirit. You are about to create lifelong memories for your students. You will have days where they fill your heart with joy. and you remember exactly why you went into teaching in the first place. That moment when they look at you and they get it and they say, oh, now I get it. That moment, it fills your heart and you remember what it means to be a teacher. The feeling is like no other and it makes your heart soar. It's what keeps us coming back year after year after year. Teachers spend their year chasing that joy of helping students learn a new skill, making a new friend, controlling their emotions, feel 10 feet tall like Miss Ambrosia did for me. That feeling of joy we get from watching their success from our front row seat, that feeling will never change. Those days where you can't believe you are so lucky to spend your days doing what you love, being a teacher. What the world has learned over the last 2 years is no one knows all the answers. It's pulled back the curtain, and now we know how complicated it all is. Even our leaders are figuring it out as we go. So let's use those failures of the past as a chance to grow and continue to have questions and seek answers. Keep learning, keep growing. As you stumble and get back up, you model for your students how to persevere. One thing is for sure, things are going to change. If it didn't change, you would be walking around all day with blue fingertips from that mimeograph machine I used in the 80s. Use this new school year as a chance to take what has worked and lean into it. One of the elements that has worked is Boom Learning. Technology and platforms like Boom make a huge difference in our students' learning. That immediate feedback that Boom provides is so crucial to our students creating deeper understanding. By using live monitoring, teachers can see in real time how their students are understanding a concept, and they can jump in with intervention the moment it happens before bad habits form. This has a huge impact on learning, and the data that we receive help us make better decisions on what we should do next. The use of sound files and videos can be used to differentiate our teaching and to meet the needs of all of our students, regardless of their level or language. Teachers can give attention to small groups because Boom holds our students accountable during independent work, regardless of which device our students have. The tools we have to increase learning are getting better and better, and I am sure that Boom Learning will continue to adapt and add new features to meet the needs of our students. So please remember, you don't need all the answers. You don't have to do it alone. We are stronger together. Together, there is nothing we can't handle. You've proved that. It might get messy. You are definitely going to be tired. And you might just want to take a peek at your retirement. But you can do this. You have been doing this. This is why you do this. Mary and Eric and the whole Boom team have developed a platform that can transform how you teach, how you make decisions, and how you can meet the needs of all of your learners. A platform that can bring joy and engagement to our classes and help us feel confident in what our students do and do not know. That's powerful. You have a great opportunity to hear from some amazing authors who are going to be sharing their expertise over the next couple of days to help you on your journey. The tools may change. In fact, the tools are going to change. But you are the heart of your class. You are someone's Miss Ambrosia. So go close your door and do what you do best. Teach. Have a wonderful year. I wish you happiness. And thank you so, so much.
Well, thank you for that emotional and inspiring speech. I kind of, I had a Mrs. Ambrosia too. And in fourth grade, Mr. Moore, I think, was the first teacher who believed in me more than I believed in myself. And it changes you as a student. I never had confidence as a student. I came here when I was 3 from Vietnam, and I didn't speak a lick of English. And I struggled for, I would say, the first 3-4 years while I was here, and definitely in school, simply because I didn't understand what was going on. And it wasn't until fourth grade, fourth grade, when I started to learn math that something clicked. I finally understood what was going on in the classroom, probably because math is the universal language. And once you experience your first taste of success as a student, and especially once you have a teacher who believes in you and supports you and kind of goes the extra mile to make you feel special, that just changes a student. That just sets them on the right path. And I truly believe if I had Boom Learning when I was a student, I probably would have reached that or experienced that confidence and success far earlier than fourth grade, simply because of the features you had said. There's audio, there's video. Could you imagine, right now there are Boom cards that have audio in Spanish or are written in Spanish that are teaching subjects in the American schools. So the language barrier for me would not have been a barrier to education. But if there are any questions.
It's so true. We all have a Miss Ambrosia. I bet if we asked everybody who's here, everybody has somebody that was their Miss Ambrosia. And they not only change you as a student, but as a human being. And that is just like, some people some professions may make more money than us. Some people may get more like accolades than us. But I'm telling you, I don't think there's a profession out there that has more power to make a huge change in a human being's life that will last like forever. I guarantee everyone has, like your fourth grade teacher, my second grade teacher, everyone has somebody like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. If anybody has any questions for Della, please feel free to post them in the Q&A box below. I'm sure she's chomping at the bit to answer some of your questions. And in the meantime, I have some questions for Della. So if you've got any, pop them in the Q&A box and we'll definitely have them answered live. So how were you first introduced to Boom cards and Boom Learning?
So way back, I don't even think Boom was even live on the platform yet, but I had some contact with Rachel Lynette, who is an amazing teacher author, and she used to make task cards. And she kind of said, hey, does anyone make task cards? You want to find out about something new? And so I said yes. And she introduced me to Mary and Eric, and they showed me what Boom could do, and they let me play with it. And I was hooked from the beginning, from the very beginning. And at the beginning, Boom was, if you're familiar with Boom, you know, some of the cards just have a button that you press and it says ding and it moves you along. That's all Boom had at the very beginning, was kind of that button. And then all the other features came in. But from the very, very beginning, I was there. And I honestly think he let us play with some of features in the studio before Boom even went live. I mean, Eric would know that better, but it was amazing. And it was because of Rachel Lynette that I got involved with Boom early on. And then when I saw the power of it, I had a group of friends who are now amazing teacher authors, and they came in and helped build the platform.
That's awesome. And just so you all know, this has been a very collaborative almost project, or the company has been very has reached out to teachers and asked them what they want in a platform. What would help you as a teacher do your job better? And that's why we have those wish lists. And trust me, we look and sit and go through those wish lists and say, what can we build? And what can we get to them the fastest? So your feedback really does matter. And like Della said, she literally emailed Eric and say, hey, can you build this? And sometimes it's the next day when the feature kind of pops up.
He was amazing, because you would literally say, and I'm in Boston, he's in Seattle, and you would text him and he would answer you. I'm like, Eric, do you ever sleep? Like, it didn't seem like he ever slept. And you would give him an idea, and literally the next day it would be ready. He was amazing and is amazing to work with. He is the smartest human being I know, and he can do things that are just crazy great. And he not only asked us what we wanted, but he really wanted to know, what do the kids need? What do the kids like? What do you think the kids could benefit from? And so, I mean, his curiosity about what works is what built the platform.
Yeah, I think both Mary and Eric come from a standpoint where they wanted to build a platform to help the teacher, to support the teacher, and not to replace the teacher. They realize that the teacher has this ability to form special relationships with students that cannot be replaced by AI or some computer program. It just can't be replaced. We need teachers, and more than ever, we need teachers, but we need to give them the tools to make their lives easier, and for them to succeed and for their students to succeed. I do have a question for you from the Q&A. Leah asks, what are some of your favorite features in Boom? And have they changed over your usage time with Boom?
That's a great question. Yes, they have changed. As he's added more, they have changed. Initially, for me, one of the biggest changes that Boom made was in sound. Once he brought in sound, I felt that that was kind of a game changer as far as what my kids could do, because I worked in a school that was made up heavily with immigrants from Haiti. And so English was not their first language, and I taught kindergarten. So if we were looking at a mop and I wanted them to tell me the initial sound, they didn't even know it was a mop. They didn't have the vocabulary to know that it was mop. So they certainly couldn't give me the correct initial sound. But when Eric brought in sound to it, that changed everything for me, because then my students knew what the vocabulary was. And so for me, I think that was the biggest leap that we could have made on Boom. And then I think now my favorite is probably video. I love that you can have a little video mini lesson and then follow it up with slides that they can practice. Or you can have a little video mini lesson that teaches them about a science concept or anything. I like the video as well. But for me, the most impactful piece was the sound. The sound was huge. And then again, I loved movable pieces. I thought that was great that you could move it and then it self-corrected. When it self-corrected, when he showed me that it self-corrected, I was blown away. But I think sound is probably my favorite.
I would have to say that I find that most effective, just also coming from my perspective as a student who, like I said, struggled with English as a second language as well. I think that's a game changer when you can add sound, and even not just for students who have other native languages, but also for students who struggle with learning English as well, or reading.
Actually, one other thing I really, really loved and was when he made it so that the kids didn't have to remember their username and passwords when they could just use the picture passwords. My kids loved the picture passwords because it almost felt like a game getting into the game. And so that was another feature that I don't know if a lot of people use those picture passwords, but in kindergarten, that was a huge feature as well.
I think even with our special ed students, I think with almost any student, half the challenge is getting them to log in to their account, whatever that might be, whether it's a Clever account or, their Google account, or here with the Boom account. That's half the battle. And we've tried to make it easy for students and teachers to get them logged in. Because once a student logs in and they play their Boom cards, we score their Boom cards for you. We grade them for you. They're self-grading. So you're not going to be spending your weekends or your evenings grading worksheets. These are self-grading. And once a student logs in and plays the Boom card, we create reports for you of their performance and their progress over time. But yeah, in addition to picture passwords, we also have QR codes. So if they're on an iPad or a tablet or even a Chromebook with a camera, they can snap a photo, scan that QR code, and they're instantly logged in to their Boom account. You don't have to even remember picture passwords.
Well, I use those a ton for, I would make a QR code for a fast pin because the fast pin will last for, I think it's 14 days. I'm not 100% sure right now, but I would make a QR code of the fast pin, and then they were boom, they were right there. They just clicked it and they were at the deck playing it right away. That's amazing.
Yeah. And Della, could you explain to folks out here who may be new to Boom Learning what a fast pin is?
Yeah, a fast pin is amazing. So a fast pin, so each deck that you have, when you assign it, you can assign a fast pin on if you go into your library, there's a drop-down menu. I think there's a blue arrow and there's a drop-down, and you can say create a fast pin. And it just creates this new pin, and it can be a mixture of letters and numbers. And you can put that up on the board and just tell the kids to put that in. I didn't do that. You can also make a link. You don't make it. Boom makes the link for you. You just copy the link and then you send that link to your families. I used to send it in a text because my families all had Boom on their phones. So I would literally send them a text with the fast play link, and they could play it right there on their way home from school. But the fast pin will get you immediately to the game. It bypasses the login. You don't have to log in at all. The one caveat with the fast pin is you're not going to get data because they're not logging in. So Boom has no way to know that this is Della playing this. So there's no data. But I mean, if you want a quick way to get in, you cannot beat it with that. And then you can take that link and you can turn that link into a QR code. So I would have at my tables, those frames that you can get at the Christmas tree shop or the dollar store or whatever, they're just little frames. I would just make a QR code and hang it on that and put it in different centers so the kids could just scan it with the iPad and they were in. I mean, easiest center you have ever made in your entire life, and such an easy way to give kids practice if you don't want the data. It's just the quickest way to get into Boom.
Yeah, and I think fast pins are great for those, like the classroom's going crazy, my kids are out of control, I need some quick, fast activity for them to do. Here's a fast pin. Go play. Salika actually made a great comment in the chat. She said, I like Google Classroom integration, no login issues. Did you use any other LMSs that are compatible with Boom?
So I started out with Google Classroom. When I first started using digital years ago, I would do Google Classroom, but it is so complicated for the kids to log in because I've got that long sign-in information. And when you only have 4 Chromebooks, it doesn't auto-populate because everybody's using the same Chromebook. But once I got Boom, I'll be honest, I left Google behind. At one point, my district only wanted us using Google Classroom. So then I integrated the two and would send my Boom lessons through Google. But I would much prefer to just use Boom and just get rid of Google entirely, only because I was with the little ones and it was just easier for me.
Just so everybody knows, we have a lot of integrations with LMSs. So we integrate with ClassLink, Clever, Google, as previously said, and Microsoft. And Canvas integration is coming this fall. So we're working hard to get you what you want. The teachers have said, it'd be great if you integrated with Canvas. Okay, let's get to it. So Canvas integration is coming, and that's going to help open a lot of doors to Boom Learning, and hopefully one less password to remember for your students and teachers. Michelle asked, when did Boom Learning go live for everyone? And I don't know if you remember, but I think I know.
My guess is 2016.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think this started off as Mary and Eric started another company called Mathtopia. And those were, math kind of digital task cards. And then it just evolved into Boom Learning, where they had it covered a lot more subjects, and the platform was really built from then on. So 2016 was when Boom Cards came on the scene. Let's see. So I want to know what did your kids love best about Boom Cards? What keeps them coming back and asking for more?
Honestly, I used to say to Eric that I thought the ding had like some tone in it that did something to their brain, because I swear they just love that it's self-checking. They love that they got that immediate feedback. They loved being able to move pieces, and I think they just felt like it was a game. They had come from worksheets that were so flat to this colorful, especially in kindergarten, we had all kinds of clip art and all kinds of exciting stuff on there. So it looked really inviting. But I used to say it's something about that ding. They love it was like Pavlov's dog or something. And it was just addicting to them. I don't know.
For those who haven't played Boom Cards before, when you do answer a question, and the ding sound that Della's referring to is the sound you hear when you get it correct. And then there's a whoops sound when you get it incorrect. And I've heard from a lot of teachers that the students actually love the whoops sound so much, they'll actually intentionally answer incorrectly just to hear that sound. So sorry about that. Anyway, Maria made a really interesting comment. She says, I teach special education. Boom Learning Activity is one of our centers. My students love it. And since they love it, I challenge them to know their username and password. It's more learning opportunities. Thank you, Maria. That's fantastic. Actually, out of curiosity, Maria, if you're here and you can type in the chat, how old are your students? And what grades are they in? Just out of curiosity. Yeah. Kim says self-correcting makes our lives so much easier. Absolutely. Oh, Maria said her students are in 3rd to 5th grade and 8th to 10th. Great. Oh, sorry, their age is 8 to 10. Fantastic.
Can I give people a little tip? So if you are using Boom in your classroom and you have a whiteboard, an interactive whiteboard, one thing that I started to do, because I love to put it up on the board and have the kids get out of their seat and walk around and clink and boom, and get them moving. When you have 5 minutes before lunch, or, you have that little transition, you're waiting maybe for a specialist to come or whatever, you just need a little filler. I would often put the Boom cards up on the whiteboard. But here's my tip. When you're making your class and you have everybody's name in there, call one of the students ghost and make their password like ABCD or, whatever, something really easy. Because if you log into a kid's account and you don't have if you don't have a ghost, you have to kind of put somebody's game up. But if you put the ghost kid up, then the data doesn't get all messed up. You just always play, the class always plays on ghost, or you could call it class or whatever. But it's just an easier way when you are doing it on the whiteboard to have certain decks assigned that are super easy for kids to go through or really engaging for kids. And that's the one that you use for the whole group, and just assign it to the ghost. And then you always just put up the ghosts, that's hard to say, deck. That was like, my kids love to get up and go to the board. It just added that extra bit.
Yeah. Do you tend to do lessons with Boom cards on the smart board?
I do if I can. Yeah, definitely. Because you can kind of give a little instruction in between, you know what I mean? It's just kind of a nice group lesson. I like doing it like that.
Okay. So a lot of people do it. It seems like Boom learning can be used in so many different ways, as for lessons, for supplemental materials, as homework assignments, in centers. Have you ever used it for assessment?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think that's one of the most powerful tools that we have. I don't know what other districts are like, but in my district, if you wanted to advocate for your student to receive services, you needed all kinds of documentation, and you needed to prove you tried, everything under the sun before you could get them any extra services. And if you use your Boom cards for assessment, there are certain cards that really do assess, like for me, again, letter knowledge, phonological awareness, all those skills. You can bring your report, like print it out and bring it to your meeting, and you have documentation right there to prove that this child is worthy of receiving services. Because I mean, maybe every district is different, but mine, we had to prove that we had done everything in order for our kids to get services. So Boom was so helpful in advocating for kids. And for me, I just loved it because you could see, how when you have reading groups and, trying to make decisions about who moves up, who moves down, all those different reading groups, by looking at the Boom cards and that reports feature, it can really help you decide that maybe Jamal's ready to bump up a little bit, or maybe I need to bring him down into a different group. It helped me make decisions all the time. And I also like to look at the class report, because if I could see everybody was kind of, missing a certain skill, then I'd be like, I dropped the ball on this. I got to go in and reteach this particular skill because everybody's missing this one slide. So I liked it. And I liked on those kids, those intervention kids, to really do that deep dive into looking at the slides. I don't know if everybody realizes, but you can look at the exact slide. When you see that graph of all the correct and incorrect, when you click on it, you can see the mistake they made. And so that's really helpful. If you see a child is making the same type of mistake over and over again, then you can really provide correct intervention. It makes it so much easier.
That's fantastic to hear. And you had also mentioned live monitoring in your presentation.
So
And that's,
I
yeah,
didn't use live monitoring only because I didn't have enough Chromebooks to do that. Do you know what I mean? I have a friend, Melissa Bennett, and she has a great store, iHeart, fourth grade, and she's a master at math. And she was the one who showed me how she uses live monitoring. So she does a lesson. She sends them all back to their desks and they all have their Chromebooks, and she pulls up her laptop and she sees in real time who's getting the slides correct and who's not. And so as soon as she sees that someone got 3 incorrect, she'd be like, Della, come up here. And she'd pull them up immediately up to the table with her so she could provide intervention, because she was able to see the whole class report in real time and see who needed it. She'd give that child a little bit of extra, send them back on their way, and she could check on her computer to see if they were getting it again. So, I mean, live monitoring is really powerful. I think maybe for the upper grades, a little bit more than for kindergarten, because I think it's more typical in a fourth grade class to see everybody on the Chromebook at one time. And that way the teacher can sit with her laptop and see what everybody's doing.
yeah, absolutely. And I think nowadays, even there, a lot of districts are having a one-to-one program where they are providing devices for every student, even as young as kindergarten. So that's kind of one thing that seemed to come out of COVID. It really bumped up that timeline to provide devices for every student. And I love that you mentioned, I don't think a lot of people know about the capabilities of our student reports. Not only can you see a whole classroom at a time and on how they performed on several different Boom cards, but you can really drill down for one student. You can look at the students' reports and you can see, look at all the cards in the Boom deck and see which ones they got wrong, which ones they got right. You're provided accuracy scores. You're even provided the amount of time it takes for them to answer specific questions. So you can see, wow, they spent a lot of time. They're struggling with this one particular Boom card or several of these Boom cards that have a similar, they're covering a similar topic. Maybe I need to intervene and kind of reteach that topic for that student or students. And
You can also
export them.
You can also see if they're spending no time on it, you know, they're not paying a bit of attention.
If they're totally guessing and breezing through the activity just to get over it, you know, you can definitely kind of see those patterns where they're guessing and also when they're struggling. So that can be a really helpful tool for teachers to intervene. Let's see, I've got some other questions here. I'm going to actually, oh my gosh, I've taken so much time. I'm so sorry. We got so excited. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much, Della, for giving us a great inspirational speech. I'm so thankful to hear it. It kind of gives me hope for my students, to be more than honest.
Thank you very much.
I've posted in the chat some of the links again. Register for the developer showcase if you haven't already, and you're going to hear some great exciting things coming up from Boom